So we are still dealing on the word eternal. How that word eternal points that Jesus is God. Because if Jesus is not eternal, he's not God. So we are still dealing on the word eternal. We say believers are promised an eternal inheritance in God's kingdom. So believers are promised an inheritance in God's kingdom. Otherwise, those inheritance, we are free from sin, from death. Okay? So the believer is free from sin and death. Okay? Believer is free. So as a believer, you are free. So the believer is free from what? Sin. So we have an eternal inheritance in God's kingdom. And what's the eternal inheritance in God's? Jesus. So Jesus is God's eternal inheritance. So when we say I have God's eternal inheritance in me right now, it's Jesus. And what's that? So because I have Jesus, I'm free from sin. Because I have Jesus, I'm free from death. You get it? So God's eternal inheritance is in Christ. So all God's eternal inheritance, all promises are in Christ. So because all promises are in Christ, when you have Jesus, you have all God's promises in you. And one God's promise is that you are free from sin. So the believer has no sin in him. Look at it now. The believer and sin is like this. So the believer has no sin. So you are free from sin. So the believer is free from sin. So how are you free from sin? Because you have Jesus. That's what makes you free from sin. So a man who doesn't have Jesus is not free from sin, no matter how moral he is. Remember, morality cannot free you from sin. That's the truth. Morality cannot free you from sin. How is a man free from sin? Only in Christ Jesus are you free from sin. Only in Christ Jesus are you free from sin. So right now, I'm free from sin. Why? Because I'm in Christ. So right now means the believer and sin will never meet. Why? Because sin has been paid. So sin has been paid means the believer has no business with sin. The believer has no dealing with sin forever. So you are free from sin forever.